You're listening to Swingology, a lifestyle podcast. Swingology is for adult entertainment only, and we're not licensed professionals. Our show features adult themes, language, and descriptions of sexual acts and desires. If you're under 18, this is not the show for you. The ideas and opinions expressed are those of the speaker only and not of any company or entity, and should not be considered professional advice. Now, let's stimulate your mind. Welcome back, everyone, to day 3 of the Bliss Cruise recap. I'm your host, Tori Kist.
And I'm Steve Kist.
And today, like I said, we're going to be talking all about day 3 on the Bliss Cruise. Yesterday, after we recorded the day 2 episode, we rushed off to the meeting point for our excursion. So we're stopped in Dominican Republic, and the bay is Tiano Bay.
But you already skipped a part. You forgot room service, babe. We got room service yesterday for breakfast.
Steve ordered me room service the night before, because he knew we had to wake up early to record the podcast and to rush off to our excursion. So we had yummy breakfast in bed.
Yes. So we placed our order the night before. And so when we woke up this morning, we literally woke up to breakfast arriving. So that was great.
Yeah, I had my alarm set on my phone for 5 minutes before the delivery time, which was perfect.
Yeah, and then there was another issue we had when we got to our, the station where the arrivals are supposed to go for the excursions.
The theater. We all met in the theater.
We realized that the ship time and the local time did not match. And we showed up an hour early. So we literally woke up an hour earlier than we were supposed to.
But hey, that's okay. We were ready to go when it was time to go. And when it was time to go, we rushed off to a motor coach, which was air conditioned, and that was nice. Because as we were pulling out of the parking lot, we noticed there were quite a few buses that had no windows and no AC, and a lot of the other excursions were taking those vehicles. And so we were quite happy that we had an air conditioned motor coach. So if you are going on a cruise, take a look at what accommodations they have for transportation. And if you're in a tropical place, you're probably going to want to have AC.
Agreed. So we took the waterfall excursion with...
Can you say the name of the waterfall, Steve?
No, I can't.
Let me see if I can try it. I believe it's pronounced Damawanga Waterfalls, and Private Beach Lunch is what the name of the excursion is titled. And there was very little details about this excursion on the Royal Caribbean app. And I love waterfalls and I love private beaches. So Steve was like, hey, book that one. So we wore our flip-flops, we wore our swimsuits, and we brought a change of clothes, some towels, and some sunscreen, not knowing what to expect.
So I really feel like the excursion personnel failed heavily in this category.
But it's laughable at this point, but learn our lessons. Keep going, babe.
There was a lot of really elderly people on this excursion. And they all made it through fine. Some of them struggled pretty heavily.
I believe there was maybe 2 couples that
didn't even make it.
That didn't make it up the flight of stairs.
And that was just like the first fifth of the journey to the waterfall. It's very, very strenuous. You're hiking very heavily. If you're a regular hiker, you probably would laugh at it.
No walking sticks, though. It's kind of worth it. So after about a 35-minute bus ride to the parking area, you switch into these water shoes. Now, they're not just your average water park water shoes. They're not water socks.
They're not beach shoes.
They are literally full-soled shoes that are going to get wet. Like, some of the people were wearing sneakers and they didn't care. Like, because you're hiking, part of it is you're hiking in the river. There's rocks. It's unstable. The rocks are moving. And there's also ground, and it's sandy. And water socks or water shoes that you wear at a water park, those get torn up. In fact, one of the customers here, one of the guests, one of his shoes fell apart.
Don't get the sandy beach water shoes that you can get from Walmart. Those are not going to cut it. You have to get a hard sole. Like, if you can easily bend the shoe, that's not what you want. You want a hard sole because you're going to be walking on very unstable, large rocks. You're not going to be able to see the rocks, and you're just going to be feeling your way through water that's trying to push you. None of that was advertised. on the excursion.
There was no heads up because the tour guide was like, "Who here is healthy?" And we all like raise our hand. Well, I'll see if you're healthy.
Yeah, that's how the tour started. Who here thinks they're healthy? We'll find out by the end of the excursion.
And then if you do get injured, they call that a Dominican tattoo.
Yeah, so like they make light of your injury and they don't care. So
no, they care.
They did not care.
They have to find a way to bring it back around positivity, right? So they laugh it off. But if they did say if you get majorly injured, they have to do paperwork, and they don't really want to do paperwork. So follow the rules. Okay, so we hike up this mountain. A lot of it is paved, like kind of paved. It's not.
It was muddy.
Yeah, muddy, but there was like boards in place to kind of keep it together.
So the mud wouldn't fall down the mountain.
Exactly.
It's not paved.
Yeah, it wasn't like sidewalk or anything like you see in America, but it was kind of put together for a third world country. A lot of stairs, but there's some resting spots. After about 30 minutes of hike kind of up, I would say the incline is, if you're on a treadmill, the incline's probably like a 4 to 8, depending on where you are. Then they're like, okay, we made it. So then we go down a wooden ladder into freezing cold, but yet refreshing water. And you're having on a helmet and you're having on a life jacket. They told everything needs to stay in the van because anything that's going to be coming with you is going to get soaked because you literally go under the water.
Every part of your body is going to get soaking wet. You will end up in the water.
You can't help it.
Saturated from head to toe.
Yeah. So my first, after I got down the ladder and I didn't realize you're sliding down the waterfalls, and there's multiple waterfalls to slide down. And then at one point there's a jump if you want to do the jump. So my first time going down the waterfall slide, it wasn't too big. It's a good starter one, but I wasn't ready for it. And I don't go under the water without plugging my nose. I never actually got that lesson in life, so I'm not the best when it comes to, going underwater. I took water on. Thank gosh I had a life jacket. Thank gosh I had a helmet. But I took water and I made myself come up to the surface. And I was like, there's water in my, what is this, esophagus?
Your throat.
In my throat. I'm like, if I breathe, I know I'm going to breathe it in. I don't want to. How do I process this? But at the same time, the current is pushing me along. People are going to be sliding down behind me. And I'm going towards people that can't move because they're kind of blocked. It was a little chaotic, but it was fun.
It was fun. I would recommend that excursion only for able-bodied, physically able people.
Kids could not do that. I would not put a child down that waterfall.
Yeah, it's not a kids-friendly excursion. I would not recommend taking kids there. Overall, I had a great experience. It was a great
Absolutely
excursion.
Breathtaking views.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were some canyons when you're walking through the water that's pushing you. All you see are like 20 feet of rock cliffs on either side of you, and you can touch both sides of the cliffs with your hands as the water's pushing you through this little tight valley between the rocks.
Beautiful.
I mean, beautiful views. But the worst part about the trip, in my opinion, the shoes that you have, because they're hard soled, sand gets in them.
We didn't talk about that part yet, the renting. So if you don't have the right type of shoes, they will rent shoes to you for $2.
Which is completely reasonable.
Yeah.
So
but they're old.
Yeah, these rented shoes are good for it, but they get sand trapped in them. And as you're walking in the water, you'd think the sand would wash away, but it's not. So over time, the sand in your shoes acts like a little cheese grater on your feet.
Yeah, by the end of the experience, I actually had a rock in my shoe, and I was like, how did that even get in there? So overall, I think there were 3 waterfall slides we went down.
Yep. So the first one was a short little one. It was like she said, it was like a tester little rock slide. The second one, I think, was the longest ride, and it had the shortest, well, the second shortest drop. It did kind of go from small, medium to large.
I think you're right, but it wasn't that long. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
So when we got to the jump, Steve, did you jump?
No, I didn't jump. I'm like, I could jump. I don't have nothing to prove, but I just didn't. I wanted the trip to be over at that point because my feet were so sore from all the sand abrasions that was happening in my feet. And of course I took my shoes off. I rinsed the shoes out in the water. My feet would be rinsed off. I'd put them back on. And then 30 seconds later, sand would start creeping back into the shoes again.
At the end of the day, I'm going to jump for just a moment. At the end of the day, we ran into another couple that was on that excursion, and she'd showed us her foot. She had formed a large blister, probably 2 thumb sizes, two thumbs side by side, a large blister, and it popped all during that experience.
Again, by and large, it was a positive experience. I would recommend it to physically abled people.
So after the waterfalls, we got back on the bus and we drove for about 30 minutes over to a private beach. And some people were exhausted, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so my husband was one of them, and he started to snore. And I was like, hey, babe, wake up. I can hear you. And he's not really a snorer, but, when you're sleeping in the upright position, everything's just kind of weird.
Whatever. I'll just have to trust her story on.
He didn't get picked on, though, so that's nice.
During the trip, at some point, we were sitting next to a very beautiful woman. Curves in all the right places.
And she's native from Dominican Republic, but she's relocated in America. So she was on this trip to go see her home country.
It sounded like her and her boyfriend had broken up during the trip, during the cruise.
She opened up to us during the hike, and he is a complete jerk. Like,
narcissistic.
Her hands were full, and she was like, can you grab this bag? And he was like, I paid for it. You should carry it. But her hands were full. She couldn't carry it, and he didn't have anything. I'm like, who does that?
Yeah, that's
and they were young
dick
people,
move.
And I was like, that's not. And she's like, I know my value. I'm like, exactly, you know your value. So that was unfortunate for her, and she's new to the lifestyle. In fact, she says she's never really done that before.
Yeah, she's never done lifestyle things, and I'm not sure she even knew this cruise was lifestyle.
My intuition tells me that's true. She didn't know what she was getting into.
And she's like, I'm going to be honest with you, I've never done this before. I've never been around people like this before.
And I'm all about being a safe place. So I said, you don't need to do anything. If you need a safe place to escape, you could always come to our cabin.
Yeah, because she's stuck in that cabin with that guy for the rest of this cruise ship because it's not like they can go somewhere else.
So on the beach, there were a lot of shade trees. What type of trees were those? They weren't like palm trees. They were maybe rain trees?
I think I remember you describing them as heart-shaped leaves.
They did have heart-shaped leaves. They were beautiful. And I like the shade because I'm fair-skinned, so I burn easy. So if it's like a sunny beach and there's no trees, I don't really like that. So we found some shady spots. There's some dogs on the beach. They were cute. They weren't annoying. Oh, there was a super fluffy cat.
The fluffiest cat I've ever seen in my life. And it was the most friendly cat ever. It was just hanging around the lunch area where people congregate to eat their food, purring on everyone's legs, and people were feeding it. So it was like, that's how it gets fed throughout the day.
And so it jumped up in between Steve's legs. So he had a pussy between his legs and he was feeding it his meat. And it kept coming up for more. Of course, we had some sexual innuendos with that.
I eventually just shoot it away.
But then I started feeding the pussy between his legs my rice, and she liked it.
What the fuck ever.
It's all true, guys.
It's true.
Okay, after the beautiful beach, what happened?
We came back finally. By the time we were done with the beach, we were so ready to come back to our room. We came back to our room. We kind of crashed. We had some sex here, but it wasn't like super enthusiastic sex. It was like, I'm exhausted after this excursion sex.
I don't know. I was completely filled with energy. Steve was exhausted because he didn't get much sleep the night before, as you guys heard in the last episode. And I was ready to go. So
we left the room. We met some friends we didn't even know were on the ship. And they're friends from Florida. They're local. And it was like, wow, didn't even know you were here. So we hung out with them for a little while. Yeah. After that, we went to Johnny Rockets, got some cheeseburgers and onion rings and...
Oh, yeah. The theme for the night was villains versus heroes, or villains and heroes. And so our original costume idea is I have a sexy Darth Vader costume that I like to wear, black and super sheer. And Steve has a vanilla full getup of
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he says it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he brought the entire thing. It almost filled the luggage. Anyway, we were too exhausted from that super long hike to get our themed costumes on. So we were wearing comfortable clothes and comfortable shoes.
At that point, we were full rallied, ready to go. So we went to one of the playrooms and we just play with each other in the playroom. We weren't trying to include other people because, again, this was our solo day. This is the day we were just focused on each other, and we weren't trying to include other people into our play activities. After that, we went to the Wonderland bar.
Well, love, before we jump into Wonderland bar, that, I must say, has been, when we played in the playroom, there were some sheer curtains, and we closed the sheer curtains so people could see our silhouettes inside and hear the sounds from inside our little canopy bed thing area, but no one could come in. And I like how the ship was respectful of that. That was a positive playroom experience for me because I haven't had one lately, a positive playroom experience. The last couple ones for myself have not been positive. So I liked that experience. And you made me squirt twice.
Yay. I don't. Yes, I did. I know how to please my wife, so.
You were enthusiastic about that last night, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I am in the moment. I'm shy about it when you talk about it.
You're shy about making me squirt. Why? You're good about that.
I know I am, but like then if you brag about it, it's like you're so braggy.
Me? Am I so braggy?
That's why I can't talk about it. I just have to acknowledge that you squirted and be like, that's what's up.
You can say, it was tasty.
Yeah, so I made my wife squirt many, many times. I'm a fucking sex god, so.
Oh my God. Okay, no, that's braggy. Silly man. Okay, so after we got all cleaned up and we're finished in the playroom, I said, I want to try out the solarium playroom because that was the conference room playroom. I want to go to the solarium playroom and just see what it's like. We went up there and it was so humid, so hot because we're down in the tropics.
Yeah, we didn't hang around. We kind of walked through and left. After that, we went to the Wonderland bar and you got the what?
The Cheshire Cat Cosmo. And this is served in a martini glass. And it starts off with the shape of a cat made of cotton candy sitting in a dry martini glass. He makes the Cosmo in his shaker and he pours it on top of the cotton candy and it disappears just like the Cheshire Cat disappears. And it was magical and it was really, really cool. Delicious.
Yep. After that, we started doing our club/bar hopping experience. We decided we were going to go through all the places on the ship and get the vibe of these places. What was interesting is we would go to one location, get a certain vibe from it, and then at some point we kind of made second rounds on at least half of the locations, and it was never the same vibe. So you could go to one kind of bar, come back 3 hours later, and that bar would be a completely different vibe.
Right.
With a completely different group of people.
Specifically, for example, we went to Boleros, which Boleros has a Spanish feel. There's bongo drums, there's a dance floor. It's a very Spanish feel. And so it was a crowded place when we were there the first time, packed. So we switched over. We went over to On Air, which is across the promenade deck. And that's more of like a karaoke, but there was nothing going on in there. There was some casual talking, but there was no show going on. There's no music going on. And then we went upstairs to, I think it's the Schroeder's bar, and it was packed in there. A lot of the older crowd, for some reason, were up at the Schroeder's bar, but it was a great people watching place because there was a balcony that overlooks the promenade down below. So we sat there at the balcony and people watched and saw all these costumes. And it seemed like all of these people, we didn't even see them the first 2 days. Like, where did these people come from? Like, it seemed like a younger crowd this time around.
That's true. We were like, there's some attractive people here. Like, where have they been the last couple of days?
Yeah.
And I was like,
so then we walked through the casino and found Studio B, and there was an ice skating show. So we watched the tail end of the ice skating show. It was freezing cold in there, and made our way around to the attic, which is decorated as a dungeon right now. So we walked through the dungeon. It was completely empty. Nothing was happening in the dungeon. And then we walked back around to another bar, and then eventually we made it back to Boleros, and Boleros it seemed like it was winding down, but it was only midnight, so it didn't make sense. But then On Air, the karaoke was jam-packed full of people, standing room only, and definitely karaoke off-key.
Yeah. And yeah, it was loud. It was packed. There was so many waiters and servers like walking back and forth with drinks, people coming and going. It was like an activity hub, that location. So it was a much more highly energetic vibe.
So then we went back around to Studio B, which is the ice skating place, and it was now a dance club. And the dance music seemed great. It was just, there was mostly people standing and talking.
So it was weird. They tried to convert it to a dance club, but what it turned into was a standing lounge hall more than anything.
The DJ was there and he was mixing music. It's just, I don't think it was dancing music.
Yeah. And so I think the DJ just failed on reading the crowd.
We left that place, went around to a club called Dazzles. And when we went to Dazzles before, it was empty. This time around, it had good dance music. It was really good. And we actually recognized some faces there. But by this point of the day, I was winding down on my energy level. So then we just
went to the pool deck and we got some lounge chairs and we stared at the stars together.
Yeah.
And we did that for, I don't know, maybe an hour. We just kind of enjoyed the peace and quiet in each other's company.
Yeah.
We talked and reminisced about our experience during the day. And then my wife mentioned that she was tired and she was going to go to bed.
And I said, well, technically, babe, it's a different day. So our solo day is complete. If you want to go make yourself busy and tell me about it, you can. And he thought about it and he said, okay.
Okay. So after I left, I went directly to this room that we knew we had friends on board from our local living location in Florida. I went to their cabin, knocked on the door. They weren't there, at which point I was like, okay, plan B. I guess I'll just mosey around the ship and see if I can run into anyone that I'm familiar with, because we've run into so many people now. And I was like, maybe I could just hang out with some friends, not expecting to play, just like hang out. I walked through the promenade. I walked through some of the bars again. I walked through the pool area, and then I walked through. And then I was like, I'll just make one more pass at their cabin. So I knocked on the door. They had just got there. They were excited to see me, so they let me in. We started talking and reminiscing and catching up from the last time we saw each other. That couple now has a unicorn third, and that's been going on for some time in their relationship now. Got to know her a little bit. And they were all very readily horny people, and we started playing. It was a great foursome experience on the bed. Eventually, the couple that I know, the wife got overheated from the sexual activity, and she took a timeout off onto the couch. So then me and the husband tag teamed the third for a while.
Now, we're saying third and unicorn
because I don't want to say names.
In lack of a better name. They identify as a throuple officially. So what would what was the third be called?
I don't know their full dynamic yet, so I don't know if they're...
Well, he said throuple.
I know that. I know that they're in a real relationship. And so for me, real relationship gets categorized as throuple, but I don't know what their relationship dynamic looks like.
Right.
I don't know if it's a full-on equal triangle or if it's a V.
Right.
Or what the situation is. So I just know...
Did the girls play it all together?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so she's not a metamor.
Agreed.
So it sounds like a triad.
Yeah, it's a triad of some kind.
That's the whole point. Don't be offended if you don't like the word third. We're trying to be respectful of privacy.
Right.
So that was amazing.
Yeah,
and then you
good.
started talking about her coming to stay with us in our cabin.
Yep. I told her that we were looking for, because it's on our door also, that we're looking for a woman to spend the night with us. She was like very eagerly excited about that. And she talked about her experience with our vibes when we met them at the pre-cruise meet and greet. Mm-hmm. Because of that, she was like all about it, and she was excited to pick a date for that to happen.
Awesome. You've gotten lucky every night of this cruise so far.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Still thirsty as a horny motherfucker. You played yesterday pretty hard.
I did.
You played hard enough to get sore.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a hangover, and I had to tap out last night. And there have been nights that I don't tap out, so that's saying something.
You support me by allowing me to release all this pent-up energy, and I love you for that, and all your great personality traits. And you were just telling me this morning about what you liked that I do for you that no one's done for you before. And
oh, guys. Okay, let me tell you this. This is not swinger talk, but if you have a second relationship or third relationship or whatnot, you might appreciate what I'm about to say. So my husband and I both come from broken marriages. This is our second marriage. And our exes are both toxic. And if you've ever been with someone who's toxic, they invalidate, they are negative, they're downers and all of that. And so when you find someone that is the opposite, that builds you up, that validates you, that encourages what you believe might be a weakness and all of that, it's just exhilarating. It's amazing. And so just lately this year, he has been saying things that my ex would have said the exact opposite. And what he says is just amazing. It makes me feel great. And I say, those are sparkle words. And so that's a new thing, like sparkle words. Whenever he says something that, because, when you're with someone who's toxic for a long time, it literally tears you down and you can be wired for those words. So then when you hear the opposite, it just makes you smile inside. And so I sometimes just look at him and I was like, those are sparkle words. I'm like, thank you. I love that.
Yeah. So we are now podcasting live on day 4, and you'll get to hear the details of that on the next release.
Yes. So stay tuned and
stimulate your mind.
Stimulate your mind. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Swingology. I'm truly honored to have you as a listener. If you liked what you've heard, consider subscribing to our podcast or connecting with us on social media. The links can be found with the episode show notes. This is Tori Kist, reminding you to stimulate your mind.